when I tell y'all I can't stand Jason, I cannot stand it, man. Like, he needs to go find him some business. Like, what is wrong with you? Like, something is wrong with him. He's like, I don't know. He's jealous of Danny. I just don't get it. I don't get it. But we're going to get into it. But if you're new here, please thumbs up the video. Please do that and subscribe. Those of y'all that aren't new, y'all know the drill. As always, y'all going to see that blinking stuff that you just saw. Bear with me. Once I finish the week and get into the weekend, I'm going to try and figure out what's going on with this. But subscribe if you're new. Thumbs up the video. Shout out to y'all for showing love. As always, we got one more week, one more part. But we're going to get into this. Let's go. I ain't going to waste no time. All right, so we get back where we left off, which was talking about Jax being sober for 150 days. Brittany pretty much confirming that he's passed all of his tests, and he wants her to keep pretty much testing him and keeping him accountable. Pretty much everything that we ended off with last week. But he starts with this shaky voice, trying to act like he's crying, and we didn't see any tears. But Andy then asked him, like, do you feel like you have any support? Like, do you actually have any support? And he was like, yeah, my sobriety coach, my life coach, and I'm doing AA meetings and yada, 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 and says that he doesn't want to do it, but that's what he's got going on. I don't believe Jax, honestly. Like, it's like, I want to give him the benefit of the doubt, but I don't believe him. And even if he is going to this stuff, we all know it's not going to change anything. Jax, I don't have any hope for him. I believe that he's genuinely going to go, he's going to end whenever his time is. He gonna end off being the same person that he is. I don't think he's gonna change, and I don't think he really wants to change. Everything he did on this reunion, you can tell, is his ploy to try and keep his job. We all know that he's been fired. He knew that he was fired at this point. He knew this was his last ditch effort to keep his job. If he came to this reunion trying to take accountability, acting like he's sorry, trying to make changes, he thinks that they might try and renege and give me my job back. That's what this was giving. I don't believe anything that he was doing on this reunion. But he starts wiping his tearless eyes, and he says all that matters is his son, and he'll be there for Brittany. He's like, I'm going to be there for you. I'm going to be there. I don't believe that. And Brittany was like, I mean, I just don't trust it. It's like, you start fights with me all the time. You do all this stuff and then trying to flip the shit on me. And you can tell Brittany realizes, like, finally, like, she sees him for what he is right now. And I truly hope she stays that way, because it seems like she actually is finally awoke. She's finally awake to the bullshit that is Jax Taylor. But he admits to it, and he then tells her that he goes back and forth with thinking if they should be together. Pretty much trying to, like, play with her mind again. And of course she starts getting emotional, stating like, you don't realize how that fucks with me, obviously. But she then starts talking about the women that he's been love bombing. Like, you're out here dealing with these women. They're sending me all your dirty text messages, all these explicit text messages that you're doing. And obviously you're sending that shit to them, and they're sending it to me to hurt me, and you're doing that to hurt me as well. But Brittany then states that their therapist, or that his therapist, pretty much stated, like, we can treat all these other mental issues, but we can't treat narcissism. And you can't treat that. You cannot treat that. A narcissist is always going to be a narcissist, and you just got to remove those type of people from your life, because they don't care about anything but themselves. But Jax claims that he doesn't, but the thing is with Jax, though, he don't really care about himself. Because if he cared about himself, he would truly put in the work to be a better person. Because the things that he likes to do, and we'll get into it in a minute, the things that he likes to do could take him out of here. You have a son. Yes, Brittany too, like, that's your, well, I guess ex-wife now. But that's the mother of your child as well. And at least, regardless if y'all are together or not, you should want her to be okay too. And then, like, her having to deal with your son. When I say deal, I don't want to say deal making it sound bad. But say something was to happen to Jax, and she's literally taking care of their son alone, when she obviously would want to do it with the person who actually helped her create the child. You're selfish. Like, you're not doing anything to help her out either. But he claims that he what did he say? He said he doesn't believe that he's ever been Brittany's type. He starts talking about how her friends have stated that she pretty much stated that she didn't want to be with him, and yada, yada, yada. And she's like, I mean, that's a lie, obviously, because you know I've been with you for 10 years. Like, what? And he then says, like, her friends in Kentucky said that she would never date somebody on reality TV. He's not her type. She says that's a lie. He tries to bring it up to make her look, and she said too, like, you're bringing this up to try and make me look a certain way. And this is that Jax shit. That's like him trying to spin shit. He tries to act like he's apologizing. He's trying to take accountability. Then he turns around and tries to spin shit on somebody. He does that throughout this entire reunion. But he denies that that's what he's trying to do. We all see through you. But she then says, like, you literally came up to me at the bar and love bombed me since day one when they first started dating. And he was like, yeah. like obviously. But they start talking about Hooters going out of business. I didn't even know that. Did not even know that. But they start talking. I'm sorry about this blinking, y'all. It's throwing me off, but we'll get to it. But they start talking about Jax doing drugs and has been doing that since 2001. And Janet was like, I was in 7th grade. Zack said he was 14. In 2001, I was 6 years old. That tells you how old that man is. But Andy, he then says, like, you were doing coke while filming Vanderpump Rules. And he was like watching it back, like, what do you think? And he was like, yeah, reading the comments and stuff, it made me disgusted with the person that I am and was. And Brittany was like, maybe now, but you've always loved yourself. Like, that never really discusses you like that. And she's right, because if that was the case, you would have stopped a long time ago. Like, these discussions of him being on those drugs has been happening back in Vanderpump Rules. So you've seen those comments before. So, like what she just stated, like, if that was the case, you would have changed then, but you didn't make the change because you don't really care. But Andy then asked when Kristen was around, because obviously she was on Vanderpump Rules with him from the beginning. And she was like, yeah, he was good at hiding it. That's just really what it was. But Brittany then says, like, he would leave her alone at the dinner table. Like, they'd be out at a restaurant, and he would leave her every 10 minutes to go in the bathroom and go shoot up. So he then says that he loves drugs and alcohol. Like, that's just really what it was. And he loved it, which is crazy, but I mean, I guess. But Andy then asked Brittany about him being diagnosed with being bipolar. And she was like, it wasn't the first time. And she was like, yeah, he never really got his prescription filled. And that's essentially the problem. Like, when you are being diagnosed with disorders and stuff like that, that can be treated and medicated, why are you not getting your prescriptions filled? Why are you not medicating that stuff to try and manage it? Like, that just proves that he doesn't really care. Like, that's just really all it comes down to. And Andy ends up asking, are you now medicated? And he says, yes, it's changed my life. Zach's face was mine. Jax didn't believe none of that bullshit that he's talking about. But Brittany then says, he starts fights with me, and then it's because he hasn't taken his medication that day. And then he then states that he still has problems, and he's trying to figure out why, and he's still angry. And when he feels like he doesn't have control, he loses it. And I'm like, that's why you take the medication. Because that's going to help you control your anger, fool. But Andy then says, like, do you realize how creepy it is that you were sitting there watching her on your cameras? Which it is. Like, it's weird. But he then blames it on his control issues yet again, not taking accountability. But Kristen then tells him, you need to go talk to a therapist. Like, don't be sitting here doing this shit with her. Like, lean on your friends. Lean on Jason. Call me and Lou. And he was like, well, you hate me. And she was like, I don't hate you. I just hate the things and the way that you treat her. Like, that's why. And Zach's over there saying, I hate you. But Jackson says, like, him and Kristen go way back. He didn't get invited to the baby shower. That type of shit hurts. He wants to be there. That's your own fault, Jax. Nobody wants somebody that acts like you around events like that. Like, that's your own fault. You have nobody. You should not be upset with Kristen. Kristen has every right to exclude you from that event, considering the fact, or any event, truthfully, especially when it's in regards to kids, when you act the way that you do. Like, nobody wants to have you around causing drama at things that don't need to be dramatic. But Kristen then says, like, you have to start somewhere, and you need to start with that. Like, start fixing yourself. But he's like, I'm a self-sabotager, obviously. But they then tell him, like, you can change. But Brittany says he constantly blames me for everything. Like, everything that he does, he blames it on me. He says it's not your fault, but I needed somebody to blame. Duh, that's what she just said, fool. But she then says, like, do you now see why I did what I did, making you go to get help? And he's like, 100%, because if I didn't go, I wouldn't be here. Kristen's obviously getting emotional. And Brittany was like, yeah, that was my biggest fear, is finding him in the bathroom dead somewhere. Like, that was my biggest fear. And Andy says throughout his reunions, Jax has never really taken accountability for anything and hasn't done it until this time. And this is the first time that he's taken more accountability than anything. Yes, he's stating, yes, I do this and yes, I do that, but he still turns around and still tries to spin shit on people. Nobody's buying that, Andy. Like, nobody is buying it. He wants them to give Jax grace, and it's like, you don't get that. Jax has been on TV we're in 2025. I think Vanderpump Rules aired 2011. So he's been on TV almost 15 years. And he does this every single year. Nobody's going to extend grace to somebody doing that. Like, nobody is going to do that. But Brittany then says, like, she hopes that he's sorry, but she just doesn't trust it, because in 2 days he's probably going to be rage texting her. And he's just being performative at this point. She's not lying. But he then says, like, he can't help or he can't say that it's going to stop today, but he's going to do his best to change it and be there for her and his son, and he will never talk negatively about her again. Bullshit. We already know that. But Brittany then states, like, you ain't even looked at me at this point. Like, if you're really apologizing, you should be able to make eye contact with me. And he's sitting there stating, like, I'm just embarrassed with who I am. Please, Jax. You don't believe it. That's really what it is. But he then goes back to trying to victimize himself. Talking about something, you don't know how hard this is on me. Like, it's hard for me to sit alone. And she was like, you're not alone. I'm the one that's alone with our child. You're up here with girls every single night. And she's like, I'm the one alone with our child every single night. And she was like, he was like, I would love to be with y'all. No, you don't. No, you wouldn't. Because if you did, you would have changed. You would have changed. But he says, I lost all my friends. It's my fault. He says, I'm taking accountability for it. And Kristen was like, you need to start changing it. Same thing she kept saying. And Andy co-signs it as well. But Andy then asks Jax, are you still in love with Brittany? He starts fake getting emotional. Brittany's obviously getting emotional. And he says, it's tough to answer right now. He's like, just move on. And Kristen was like, why is it so hard for you to just be vulnerable and just say, yes, you are. It's clear you are. I don't believe he's in love with her. I don't. He's performing. Like Brittany said, he is performing. He don't love Brittany because you don't treat somebody that you love the way he's treated her. Like, I don't care what he says. He does not love her. But Andy asks Brittany that question, and she pretty much states, like, obviously I do. Like, leaving somebody that I love, obviously, is harder. Like, loving somebody and leaving them is going to be harder than not loving. What am I trying to say? If you leave somebody that you love, it's going to be harder to do that than it is to leave somebody that you don't love. And she pretty much stated, like, you forced me to do it. Like, I'm leaving him because I do care that much about him. And it is hard, obviously, but like, that's what I have to do for the betterment of myself and hopefully him. But she's crying as she's stating that. Andy then moves on to talk about Cruz's autism and how he was nonverbal and asked, like, Brittany, did you see any signs? Were you suspicious of it? And Brittany was like, yeah, I paid attention to it. She's like, he was talking and doing all of the early things that kids do, or toddlers do, whenever they're growing up, like the walking, talking, the crawling, all of that stuff. He was doing all of that. But she says when he turned 2, he stopped talking and just did a lot of pointing and stuff. She said, like, when he got super overstimulated, he would like push his chin up and do it hard. And she said she eventually ended up getting him into speech therapy, and they started the process getting him diagnosed. And after filming, when Jax was in rehab, was when she actually started doing it, and she was doing it alone. And obviously, you know, that's hard. And she was like, thank God my mom was there because I don't know how I would have done it. But she then says, like, we got his diagnosis after they wrapped. Andy then asks, like, why did you go public with it? She obviously says, I want to be a positive advocate for autism and let a lot of parents be aware, pretty much, because a lot of parents are in denial when it comes to certain things like that. And it's just important for them to be aware. You are 100% correct, Brittany. 100% correct. But he's in therapy. We find out that Cruz is in therapy. He's in a lot of different therapy sessions, and she says he's thriving. She says he's perfect the way he is, and Jax agrees. Good. I love hearing that. It's good that they are extremely supportive too, and I feel like most parents would be, because you have to let autism is not I don't want to say it's not a bad thing, because I don't think it is a bad thing. It's just you're different, and when I say different, not in a bad way, because I have a cousin who's autistic. You're just beautiful. You're beautiful in a different way than most people are. And I'm glad that she's in that headspace, and you can tell she's probably letting him know, like, there's nothing wrong with you. Like, you're just different. That's just really what it is. But Kristen gets up to go pee because obviously she's pregnant. She's like, I got to go pee. So Andy then moves on to Michelle and Jesse again with her possibly cheating on Aaron, or cheating on Jesse with Aaron. So Andy ends up asking Jesse, did you have proof of her cheating? And he says, like, they were with a close friend one day, and she insisted that she didn't cheat with Aaron, and she didn't want Jesse talking about it on the show. So he then says, like, one of our friends had said, but you did cheat on him. Pretty much stating that what Michelle just said, like, she didn't cheat on Jesse with Aaron, was a lie. And he says that she admitted to it. And Michelle says that's not how it went, but okay. But Jesse then says, but you said that you kissed him too. We know that she said that because she said it on the show too. But Michelle then says, like, he asked and I explained what happened. And Jesse said that you cheated. And she was like, yes, I did. We know that, Jesse. And he was like, finally. And she was like, but you knew that before filming. And she said, you tried shaming me because you wanted people to hate me. Two things can't be true. Like I stated, we knew that she cheated, but I also do believe that he also bring that to the show for what she just stated. Which, I mean, can I be completely mad at him? Because like I stated, when I'm in a relationship, if you ever cheat on me, I'm going to let you know about yourself, and I'm going to let everybody else know about you. So it's like, can I really be mad at him all the way? But yeah, she's right. Both of them are right. Both of them are right. But, where am I at? Hold on, y'all. Let me pause. So Andy throws the question back to Jesse. Have you ever cheated on her? And he says, no, he never cheats on anybody. So, shit. He ends up asking, I was getting lost again, but he ends up asking, if she believes that he hasn't cheated on her, and she says no. But Kristen then comes back, and Andy brings up her stating that Michelle was having a boyfriend last year, and it wasn't Aaron. And it was funny because Kristen literally is walking back to the seat as he's addressing her. And it's just like, damn, can I sit down first? But Michelle then says that I didn't have a boyfriend when Kristen had said it. Kristen was like, but you were seeing somebody. But she then says, too, all I knew about Aaron. Hold on, y'all. I'm getting confused. So Kristen says all she knew about Aaron is what she said on the show. And Andy was like, so who was the guy? Like, was he a friend? And Michelle says yes. And Jesse was like, yeah, a friend that she kisses. And Michelle says somebody that gave me attention. That's literally what it was. Like, you didn't give me attention, so I got it somewhere else. That's what typically happens when it comes to cheating. Like, if you're not getting something that you want from your actual partner, your spouse, that's why people end up cheating. Like, I've had one of my best friends, his baby mom. I hope he ain't watching this because I'm telling his business. His baby mama was not fulfilling him in that way. And he ended up proposing to her and everything. And me and my other friends, we was literally telling him, like, if you're not fulfilled here, you're going to keep straying. So at this point, if it can't be fixed, I don't think you should get engaged. I don't think you should get married. And it eventually happened to where it clicked. And now they're no longer together, and he's actually in a happier relationship now. But yeah, like that's just really all it comes down to. Like, if you're not fulfilled in areas that you feel like you need to in a relationship, in a marriage, you need to be upfront about that first, because I feel like cheating is the most disrespectful thing to do. Just be upfront about it. And if it doesn't change, leave. Don't go cheat. But that's why cheating happens. Like, that's just really what it is. But Michelle says that. Jesse then says, like, my number one thing is cheaters. And she was like, I mean, that's interesting because as soon as I asked for a divorce, you started sleeping with a married woman. I said, oh. And he then asked, who is it? And she was like, you know who. It starts with an A. He says, oh. Because you can see him trying to put it together, too. Oh, my ex, who hasn't been married for 25 years. I said, 25 years? How old is this chick? I was like, what? 25 years? How old is Jesse? Jesse got to be like 40 or maybe like late 30s. 25? So if he's in his early 40s, late 30s, 25 years, he would have been, what, 20? Math is not my strong point, as y'all can. He'd have been 15. How old is this chick? How old is she? But she then says, like, really? Like, she's still married. And she ended up stumping him. Like, you could see all over his face, he was caught red-handed. I'm like, oh. So you trying to point your fingers on her, but you ain't no better. But Andy then moves to Jesse saying that Luke had told him that Michelle had caught Aaron with another girl while they were still married. And Luke apologizes for even being involved in the situation. He says, like, when she said that she was seeing somebody, she went to go see him, and he was with another girl. Jasmine then asked Michelle, who Jasmine has not been. Jasmine is a ghost on this reunion. No, she's barely been asked any questions until the end, obviously. But Jasmine ends up asking Michelle if she feels like she's emotionally cheated on Jesse. And Jesse was like, that's what I said. But Michelle said what? When y'all, I am so all over the place. But Andy ends up asking her if they were in an emotional relationship, and she says no. So Jesse then says that Aaron told him in Hawaii that they met up at a park. Isabella was there, and he pretty much used to ask her for advice on the girls that he was dating. And she says that's not an emotional relationship. I don't see it as an emotional relationship either. Honestly, I don't. It's like, what do y'all tell me what y'all think? Do y'all think that's an emotional relationship? He says Aaron said like she would ask for advice, his advice on their marriage and separation. Well, I mean, I guess y'all tell me what y'all think. I don't know. I'm gonna have to really sit and marinate it and really think it out. I haven't really thought it out, but yeah, that's interesting. But Michelle then admits to it and says that's not emotional. He says it's wildly inappropriate, which, I mean, I get that though, because if you're still married and you're confiding in somebody that you're clearly attracted to because you see what happened quickly, about my marriage, like about our marriage, about separating, obviously because you want to get with him. So, I mean, I do find that inappropriate. But she then says like, but you told your client that you wanted to eat her out. I said, both of them, that's what it is. Both of them they both are wrong. Like, they do certain things and try and point the negatives out within each other, but then they turn around and be doing negative shit too. Both of them are crazy. But he admits to doing that, or he admits to his clients calling him out. And, well, no, because Andy ends up asking how long were y'all together, and he then says like 8.5 years, and Andy ends up asking if everybody's glad that they're not together anymore. And of course they all say yes. So we move on to Zack, Kristen, and Janet's issues. So he then asked Kristen, why were you so reluctant to believing Janet's apology at the white party? Kristen says that Janet was on the show. The Janet that's on the show is not the Janet that she knows off the show and that she was friends with before they started filming. I can believe that. Kristen then says, like, the second they start filming, she was confused, like, who the fuck is this person? A lot of them on that stage was like, yeah, we all sitting here thinking the same thing. Jason's delusional ass is sitting there stating, I don't know why y'all are stating that why she's masterminding shit that's going on in the show, because you're fucking delusional. That's why anybody with a brain watching a show, this show, can see that she's manipulating shit. She's trying to stir shit up. Like, if you don't see that, you're just delusional. That's just really what it is. I understand that's your wife and you want to defend her, but you got to call her out for what she's doing. And she is exactly what they're stating. But Kristen, it says like she's kind of like wanting to be the Stassi, the Lala, the Sheena. No lies told. But Janet then says, so that's what you're saying. I'm not. But Jesse then says that he watches the show, and when he watched the show, Janet bringing shit back up that's already been addressed and already been squashed and no longer needs to be brought back up, her interjecting into other people's stuff, that's what makes it look manipulative. And it's true. It's just like, hello? But Jason then says, like, watching it back, I see like 80% of the people on this couch over here are talking about her the entire time. Why are they talking about her though, Jason? Because she starts shit with them. That's why. Like, Jason, I can't. He's probably, damn, like, he might be the person that irritates me the most. Like, Jax and Janet, I can't stand them two. You already know. But Jason, it's just a different level of just irritation with him. Like, I expect that shit from Janet and Jax. Jason, it's like you want. Like, Jason that's probably why, because Jason last season, he really was like background. Now that he wants to be in the forefront, you really seeing the true person that he is, and I can't stand it. But Andy ends up asking what Zack has said to Brittany about Janet at the bar opening. And he says that he was blacked out, and it was told to him that he said that he wanted Janet to miscarry. That's fucked up, Zack. That is fucked up. Andy asked, why would you state that? And he said it threw me off because, I mean, I don't know. So he says that when he said it, it was to Brittany. Jason says that was not a private conversation. It was a tirade, and you got removed from the bar. Brittany then says it like it was out of character for him. Jack says he's drunk all the time. Rich coming from you. Rich. But Janet then asks, are you even sorry about it? Zack says, absolutely, I've apologized for it. She says, but you was talking shit about me before you apologized, so you didn't seem sorry. Zack then says that was a whole year later. Instead of actually having a conversation, you were trying to call lawyers. Janet says, maybe don't drink until you're blacked out. And why do I need to even have a conversation with you when you said that shit when I was 8 months pregnant? I hate that Zack makes me agree with her in this moment. Because, yeah, like when you sit and think about it at 8 months pregnant, why would she want to have that conversation? But then again, when you sit and think about the shit that she did, you was meddling and doing all that shit when you was 8 months pregnant anyway. So it's like, what's it to you? But Andy ends up asking if there's a point where she can move on. She states that she wants to, and she wants to get in a better place with them, but she needs to change, or she needs to see that change within him, and that he can't be on here trashing her for 24 hours, like 24/7. But you can do it to everybody else. You don't want them to do it to you, but you can do it to everybody else. Like, that's why I don't like Janet. She's such a hypocrite. But Andy then talks about them making up, and then at the Zen party, she was screaming at him and stuff. And she was like, I mean, he kept blaming me for his and Brittany's issues. And Brittany didn't like the comments that he was making and basically stated that she wanted space from him too. So Andy then talks about how Zack was feeling like Brittany takes Janet's side a lot. Zack says that he just doesn't know what type of voodoo Janet's doing on her. And she was like, I mean, maybe I'm just a good friend to Brittany. Kristen's face was mine, like, bitch, be for real. But Brittany then says, like, I love both of y'all. Janet says that she wants Brittany to have friends. Michelle says, like, it's just a level of jealousy. And Zack obviously is flabbergasted, like, jealous of what? Zack, I do feel like Zack is a little bit jealous of Janet and Brittany's friendship. He has reason to be upset with Brittany always taking Janet's side and never calling her ass out, but we got to call it spade a spade. I agree with Michelle. It does give off jealousy. But Michelle then says that you want Brittany to just be your best friend. Zack says Janet was the one that was telling Brittany not to hang out with me. And Janet would text her every time I was with her. And it's funny because Zack be doing the same thing. but rightfully so, though. But he then says that Janet took down Brittany's birthday post. Brittany confirms that she did. So, of course, Andy's asking her why. And Janet says it was at that point where I was pissed off because Brittany had only communicated to me that she was taking a break from Zack. So, at that point, I'm sitting there thinking that she's still on that break with him. Yet, I'm seeing this. So Brittany then says, like, we literally just started talking right before my birthday. Janet says, well, it wasn't communicated. And she says, from my perspective, she was saying, I'm disgusted. I don't like him, da-da-da-da-da. And if I ever talk to him, that's the tone I was getting. Zack was thrown off by that. He's like, if I ever talk to him again, like, you basically was about to cut me off. And Brittany was like, I mean, I told you that. You know I love you. Fake friend. We know how Brittany is. But Andy then asked Kristen how she feels about Brittany and how she feels Brittany's been a friend to Zack. Kristen says, I mean, I feel like she's a great friend to both Zack and Janet, but excuse me, hold on, I want to burp me. But she brings up how, like, when Zack be making comments, she's quick to, like, stop him and be like, hey, stop. But when it comes to Janet, she don't be saying shit. No lie told. And that's the whole issue at the end of the day. But Janet claims that she don't be talking shit about them to Brittany. I don't believe that. Brittany confirms that she doesn't, but I don't believe that. Kristen then says that Brittany literally told her that she texted her talking shit about her, which I believe that. Janet then says there's plenty of times that you asked Brittany why she was friends with me. Kristen says, but I don't speak ill on you. Do I believe that? I don't know. I feel like a lot of them be saying, I don't do this, I don't do that, but they be doing it. But Janet then tries to spin it on Kristen. Kristen and Zack are laughing like she's insane. She is. And Zack was like, you're literally the one that's constantly asking why she's around me. But Janet then claims she's happy that she has the both of them, talking about Brittany having Zack and Kristen because she needs the support considering everything she's going through with the divorce and shit. Andy moves to wine country with Michelle and Jesse and their issues. So he brings up Jesse calling her an escort and how he felt she was going to react when he tried to, like, wave the white flag. And he was like, I mean, I thought about that a lot. She says, I'm sure you have. And he says that he should have never tried to offer a white flag before having the conversation, obviously. But Andy then asked, like, why he got so emotional at the healing circle and had to get up and leave. So he then said he's done things to be a shitty person, but for her to not be able to say at least one nice thing about him, like stating that he's a good father, that is what hurt him. Janet says, I mean, it's kind of hard for her to state that after what you said, which I do agree. Michelle then says, like, you didn't even converse with me. You didn't try and call me. You didn't apologize. And he says that he did. She denies it. Janet then tells him, just say it right now. He's like, I mean, I've been stating it over and over and over again. And Michelle says, no, you haven't. Like, he says, now I have to worry about Isabella being bullied someday because I had said what I had said. And I'm like, how does that correlate? But then again, Michelle ends up confirming. She's like, you're only worried about it because your clients have called you about it. And that's why. And he was like sitting there denying it. And Andy then asked Michelle to talk about the gay guy that was sending Jesse money. And he was like, I mean, we spent 3 summers with him at his house. He sent us money, or he sent me money on my birthday. Andy ends up asking, are you blowing him for money? He's like, no, like, we're friends. He was one of the 52 people at our wedding. She ends up confirming that as well. But Jessie says, like, she just wanted to use that to spin her narrative that she had against me. And she's like, it's not a narrative. I'm not the one that's out here texting people that you're a whore. And Andy ends up asking, like, does anybody believe that? Nobody believed that she was an escort. Jesse then says he didn't believe it either and shouldn't have said it. That's why, Jesse, you shouldn't have said it. And that proves that you proved her point. You did what you did because you wanted her reputation to fall, even though it was already on the ground anyways last season, because we all believed that she was cheating on you. But that's what you did. Like, you saying that she wanted to spin a narrative on you, which I do believe she did too. Like I said, both of them are doing the same thing. Like he said last week, they on that tit for tat shit. Like, I'm gonna get you because you got me. So Michelle then says, like, he knew saying it would ruin her reputation. He says that he had sent the text to kind of get the smoke out the mole in the group chat. And Jesse's like, yeah, we now know it's Danny. We about to move into Danny's drinking. So Andy asked Danny, what's been going through your head when you've been hearing all this shit about Jax and all his struggles with drugs and alcohol? Danny says, I have to rewind it back because Jax said coming into the season he was coming after me. Jax sits there and tries to apologize. Talking about, I'm sorry for how I handled it. Bullshit. I don't believe anything Jax says, but everything he said to Danny and Nia here, y'all know I didn't believe that. It's clear he sees the fan reaction. He sees how we reacted to the way he's treated these two. And he's trying to get in good grades. Like, come on, Jax, you're a see-through. But he then says Danny and Nia were constantly checking up on him. Even when he was in rehab, they were the ones calling him. And he says it was terrible for me to say that. Danny's always been nice to him. And he says that I'm sorry that what I've been saying about you. It proves that you are literally jealous of them. You're jealous of him and you're jealous of the fact that they have what you want, which is a stable relationship. I said it all season. Like, he wants to have, like, he sees a couple that is actually okay, not having drama. He wants to then give them that drama because he can't live like that. So he wants to fuck up their shit. That's a toxic individual. That's somebody you don't need to have in your life. But Danny's obviously getting emotional because it's like, you did all that shit knowing that you can state that I haven't done anything to you. And you wanted to hurt me in my marriage. Like, that's crazy. But Kristen then asked, like, why would you even want to go after him? Nia says because he said that he didn't like his season 1 edit, which I find crazy because it's no different than everything else that we know of Jax Taylor for what? He was on Vanderpump Rules for what? 9 or 8 seasons? The same edit he got, which is his real life. Like, that's who you are. But he says, she said that he didn't like his edit and felt like they got a good one. They were just being themselves. But Jackson then says that he was told that those two get protected on the show. And Nia's like, we don't know nobody on Bravo. Like, Jackson then says, like, this is an apology. Like, I'm sorry. She don't have to believe your bullshit because we know it's fake. But he then says that they don't have to be his friend because he doesn't deserve it. You don't deserve their friendship. But then he then says that he wanted to and cared. You can tell he's getting emotional. He's like, I wanted to be your friend. I cared about you. I defended you. And you just sat here and took my face and drug it through the mud the entire season. And that's literally what it was. You were sitting there trying to put dirt on my name and ruin my character and reputation in my marriage. All of that is true. Jax claims he's truly sorry. I don't believe it. But Zach then says, why would anybody believe that shit? I said, exactly. But of course, Danny being the person that he is, he appreciates the apology. I said, please don't accept it. You can state it for face value, but don't accept it. But Andy then moves to the pantry. Danny in the pantry with the drinking. So he then asks him, like, were you hiding it? Like, what were you hiding it from? And he says, I was hiding it from the cameras because I knew what was being said, aka Jax and Janet. So Andy ends up asking Nia, do you take any issues with the person that he is when he's drunk? She's like, sometimes I don't like what happens when he is drunk, but I know the person that he is. I know his character. I know who he is as a parent. Overall, he's not going out getting drunk and stuff like that, like they're trying to make it out to be. So Andy ends up asking that if she feels like he's been honest about his drinking. And she was like, even when he hasn't been, when we talk, when I can clearly see that he's a little bit inebriated and he's trying to act like it's not, we actually talk those things out. And she says, we get on the same page, basically, as they should in a marriage. They don't have to bring that shit to TV. There's certain stuff that you don't have to bring to TV. And when I state certain things, yes, they are on a reality TV show and the objective is to be real. But there are certain things that don't have to leave the house. It doesn't. There are certain things that I grew up in a household where what happens in this house stays in this house. Like, we don't talk about shit that's going on outside of the house. So there's certain things that you don't have to talk about on TV. And if you don't want to talk about it, you don't have to talk about it. That's the whole problem. They want them to talk about certain things that the world doesn't need to know. Like, that's the crazy part. But Andy ends up asking if she feels like he's been. I already read that. Jason says that's great, but my issue is nobody asked you. Don't nobody care. But he says my issue is how they were looking to blame shit on Jan. This is how I was like, you dumbass. He said they blame shit on Janny as if she's the reason for it and not Danny. She is the fucking reason as to why she gets the blame. She is a negative person. She's not coming. It's like I said all season. If she was trying to come with this whole Danny and his potential drinking issue, if she was trying to come to Nia and Danny about that on some good energy, it would be felt. You can tell they don't feel that. We don't feel that watching it because we know her motive is not to be helpful. Her motive is to be negative, to spin an image, to spin a narrative, to ruin his reputation and also to ruin their marriage. That's why she gets the blame. Kristen sees it, Nia sees it, Danny sees it, all of us see it. We all see it. Like, Jason's a dumbass. I can't stand Jason. And he's a problem too. I understand wanting to defend your wife, but when your wife is wrong, address that she's wrong. Because she's dead ass wrong. And the fact that he's sitting there watching the show, knowing that she's wrong, getting on here trying to act like they're doing something wrong by calling her out for the shit that she's doing, you're gaslighting them. Like, you're a problem too. But he then asked if anybody can articulate what Janet did. And Nia says, yeah, I can. Like, I love y'all as friends, but the place that what I just said, the place that she's coming from, it's not coming from a place of concern. She's the only person out here that's perpetuating the conversation when people are already done with shit. Like, she keeps bringing shit up when it's already been squashed because she wants mess. I said, tell the truth, Nia. Like, come on. But Janet then says, like, I came to you at girls' dinner stating, like, if you're struggling with his issues, you got friends here that support you. Why would she come to you? Or why would she come to you? And not only that, if she didn't bring it to you, she's not questioning anything. That's not something she's struggling with. You're trying to pretty much insinuate something that may not even be there. That's the whole point. Janet, she's a gaslighter. But Janet then says, like, when he was calling me a snake, of course, I'm going to keep talking about it. Like Danny just said, I called you a snake after you were calling me Darko and Dark Side Danny. And then, of course, here she goes talking about something. I think Danny Darko is better than that. Fuck you. Fuck you. And that's why people don't like you. That's why people don't like her, Jason. But he then says, that's why I called you a snake. And Jason says, I mean, it's way easier getting triggered when you're drunk. Nia clocks him and says, it's way easier to get triggered when somebody's calling you out your name and calling you names. Clocked him. But Andy then moves to the Halloween incident with Jasmine. So he then asks about the several weeks that he... Hold on. Andy ends up asking Nia about the several weeks when her and Danny were not in a good place and how they worked through it. She pretty much states we addressed it head on. We went to therapy together separately to get and make sure that we're in a healthy place to move forward. And we were in a good place once we finished all of that. Danny then says he didn't remember any of it. So when Brittany had called Nia to pretty much tell what had happened, he immediately reached out to Jasmine. Jasmine said Nia did. Nia says, I did, but he messaged you the same day immediately, and he showed me the messages. I believe Nia. Jasmine has been proven to be a liar too. I don't not believe what happened to her, but I believe Nia in this instance. But Jasmine then says that you talking about Nia, you called me at the airport and apologized for him. Nia says again, I did do it the same day that he immediately reached out to you. Andy then asked, like, to Jasmine, do you feel like the white party apology was genuine? She says the problem I had with it was when we sat down, he's like, oh, so are you really doing this right now? And she said, I felt like, what do you mean? Like, what am I doing to you? Waiting to bring it on camera. That's what that is. Like, Jasmine, it's not hard to understand what he's stating. And we're about to get into it because I fully understand why he asked that. Like, but Jasmine then says, like, Melissa never got an apology that you would have given to Kristen or anybody else to her face. And we essentially hadn't seen each other for months. So seeing him again brought up those feelings, and she said she felt like the apology that he gave was half-assed, and she felt like it was some bullshit, and she didn't believe it. I said, so if that was the case, why didn't you say it to him then, instead of going around talking shit? But he then says that he was caught off guard, which is why he asked that initial question. And Nia was like, to Jasmine, you have every right to feel that way, but I do feel like he was caught off guard because he had already apologized more than once. Jason sitting there reacting like a fucking weirdo. But Jasmine then says, like, later on, they had a deeper conversation, as we all know, and it just felt like her relationship was way less, I guess, way less valued than other people's relationships. And Andy was like, that resonated with me. Jasmine said that she loves the both of them, Nia and Danny, but he hurt her. She then thanks Jason for having her back because she felt seen. Jason sitting there talking about, I'm trying to hold my emotions in because that conversation and that interaction was disgusting. You're disgusting. Danny then says, you weren't there. Jason says, but you both admitted it, so what else do I need to know? It's not your place to talk on it. So Jason then says, like, Danny basically was he didn't say this, but he basically was stating that Danny was insinuating that Jasmine was doing it for the show. That is exactly what I got from it. That's exactly what it's giving. But Nia then says that Danny thought that y'all were in a better place. Danny says it literally happened almost a year ago. Jasmine says we hadn't seen each other. Danny says we have. Jasmine says not in this situation. I said, what do you mean not in this situation? With the cameras? That's what you mean. So that proves his point. You only brought this up for the show because you don't have a storyline. Let's keep it all the way a buck. That's the whole reason as to why you brought it up, Jasmine. Like, not in this situation. We haven't been in this situation. What different situation do you mean? Like, y'all been around each other, as it's been stated, and you didn't deny what Danny said. So when you say not in this situation, y'all were not filming. Now that y'all are now filming, you now have a reason. Now you want to talk about it. Like, that's why I'm like, lost me. Jason then says, like, if I did what happened to you, Nia, like, you could be mad at me forever, but I would still be at your feet apologizing every single day. And Danny was like, I mean, that's what I've been doing. I've been doing the same stuff too. Jasmine then says, it's just hard hearing that you would state, why is she bringing it up again on the after show? It's kind of like a slap in the face. Danny says, by Janet, not by you. I was saying that about Janet. Jason says, you're a clown. You better never. He's sitting there trying to get mad. What are you going to do? Are you going to get up and go hit him? Like, we know you're not about that life, Jason. Like, you swear you about that life. But Janet then says it's happened multiple times since then. Nia says it's wrong for you to make it out as if that happened more than once. And it did not happen more than once. Janet says it happened as recently as the Super Bowl. Nia and Danny says that's a lie. Nia says you literally lie all the time, and we all know she does. Next week, Nia about to get up. I'm so proud of Nia for standing her ground. So proud of her for standing her ground. We got next week. It looks like a mess, but we're going to get into it. But if y'all thugged it through with me, I'm tired, y'all. I got my first day of work back since 2 Fridays ago. Tomorrow. So, yeah, I'm about to go watch this WNBA game. Dejanay Carrington is starting first game with the Lynx. I'm going to watch that till I fall asleep. But I will see y'all next week, and the recap will be better. But I love y'all for watching. Thank y'all. Peace. Subscribe if you're new. Thumbs up the video. Drop your comments, and I'll see y'all then. Peace.